And hello, you absolute lovelies. X-Men 97 is back with Season 2, and we didn't just get X-Force. We didn't just get X-Factor. We got Chamber and members of Generation X. We're going to talk about all three of those first episodes. I am so excited as a ride or die X-Men fan to talk about all the details, all the comic book references, all the Easter eggs, all the stuff, but also how well written this is, whether you've read the comics or not. So these first three episodes are going to be full spoilers, and then week to week full spoiler reviews all the way through Season 2. So we've gotten our first act, basically 3 out of 9 episodes with this first drop. So please have seen those before we dive in, because we're talking about all 3 episodes in 3, 2, 1. What a way to come back to this show. We dive right in where Season 1 left off. We're doing Askani Sun. We're doing Slim and Red. We're doing Nathan Summers. We're doing all this, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Episode 1 is largely focused on that mainly one timeline. It does have time travel. Obviously, we see Bishop and Cable and things do go all over the place, but it is in that first episode there, and I love that each episode is largely one timeline while still integrating elements of where all the X-Men are. It's a great way to allow this many X-Men teams, which is very common. It's a great way to have us get to know new characters, which is also necessary in a world as vast as X-Men. But most of all, it allows for Apocalypse to feel omnipresent. He is a threat through time and space, and apocalypse gets to be a noun and a verb. It gets to be a feeling while also being an entity itself, and I love that we are dealing with original X-Men continuity. This is X-Men 97, which means it's following the X-Men 90s show. That show had Apocalypse, but he was written a little bit more thin. It was much more the end of that show, which wavered some, and they had to do a lot. This, because time travel, because the nature of Apocalypse, can recontextualize and give gravitas, depth, a lot more writing nuance to the character, especially in the timeline where we're meeting him as Ansabanor. Now, Ansabanor is not a bad guy all the way yet, but we get to see that corruption, especially in episode 3. So breaking it down as briefly as I can with all the comic book stuff, I'm so impressed that as a reader of these comics, I love the 12 storyline. I remember Ozymandias being a character that I didn't quite understand in the 90s because I was a literal child, but then when Breaking Bad came out, I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? But that character is actually in the comics working for Kang. He's working for Ramatut, and I'm curious if that's going to be a factor as well, because I'm sure that's an inevitability of like the two big bads fighting and whose loyalty Ozymandias is. Obviously, we've got the 4 Horsemen. Is Gambit going to be one of those? We've got a lot going on with different timelines of Apocalypse, but it feels like we're building to a giant conflict between these two time travels while also having lots and lots of things going on with the different team dynamics. Now, the second episode of these 3 is probably my favorite. The first was a great bringing us back into the world, bringing us into Apocalypse, bringing us lots of details about what Nathan Summers is going to be and this journey of why Apocalypse is this big bad. But the second episode did something I didn't know a show could accomplish in just 26 minutes. One of the reasons I love the X-Men is each of the teams is a different flavor. I've been collecting X-Men since I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I collect all the titles. So you guys probably know, I talk about it all the time. I'm 18 issues from every Spider-Man ever in print, but I'm also only 87 issues from every X-Men ever in print. That is X-Men, that is Uncanny X-Men, that is X-Factor, that is X-Force, that is Generation X, that is X-Men. But what I love about these teams is they are different. X-Force is a mercenary team. It is a violent, intense team. X-Factor is a bunch of government stooges, effectively, because they're working hypocritically, and I love that this immediately calls that out. X-Men are fighting for Xavier's dream. Their Generation X is the epitome of the 90s and what that represents of the new generation of students and children at a certain time in time, which is now 30 years ago. But all of them have a different mindset. So the first episode being so X-Men heavy, and the X-Men we know, but trapped away from Xavier, removed from Xavier's dream in a literal sense, but still fighting for it through time. Second episode gives us a new opening credit sequence. It not only brings us all new characters, but we literally get an X-Force opening credit sequence. So we see some of the merit in Cable's violent actions while juxtaposing the hypocrisy of mutants working for the government that's been trying to ruin them, enslave them, and get rid of them. And then that enslavement ties into Ansabanor's storyline in the third. But the government has never been a long-term ally to the X-Men. It ends up betraying them at all times. So X-Factor trying to play nice, I love that they lean into that not really making sense. Polaris does some interesting things. We get to meet, like I said, so many X-Men. I watched it briefly while reacting over at Real Rejects if you guys want to see me try to call out people while reacting, but like we get Beak, We get Chamber. Chamber's one of my favorite characters ever. He's one of my favorite X-Men, but also one of my favorite comic book characters. I'm so excited. Hopefully we get to spend some time with him. We get that Sandstorm mutant that can, like, control the sand itself. There's so many. We get Glob. We get Quentin Quire gets to speak. We got Sync. We got Penance. We got all of Generation X with a little Quentin Quire. We got tons of X-Factor. We got Strong Guy. We got Jamie Madrox. We got everyone from a certain time. And they all got their little moments, but we met them in such a way we got to be invested in them, so much so that we got an opening credit sequence, and it showed the difference in teams. Like I said, in 26 minutes, we got to know them just enough to see what the different team dynamic is, and that's going to endear us to them throughout the season. So we can have this giant 30 character roster of show, and that is so impressive to do in these 3 episodes. Now, the 3rd episode then brings us back to a little bit more of the not present. So with X-Factor and X-Force, that was the present, which is like a, feeling future-ish, but it's not just wallowing of where's our friends, it's growing out that world. And then we've also got, obviously, the growing conflict of Cable having to navigate, like, his parents can't stay there. This young Nathan Summers can't have that going on. We meet Kang, which is a crazy thing because of the MCU. How's that going to come to play? Are we going to address the Nathan Summers, Nathaniel Richards of it all? Like, Nathaniel Richards, grandson of Reed Richards, and that is its own messy bit of chaos with time travel. Is that going to be a thing? Are they going to call him Kang? So we've got all of this in the 3rd episode, building tension. We see the corruption through the philosophy of Magneto, which I adore, because usually it's Magneto fighting for the death of humanity, but here he's trying to nip it in the bud in the very beginning. If you can solve the mutant and human divide thousands of years ago, what does the world look like? Is that too big of a butterfly effect? All these questions that Xavier asks, but the fact that Magneto's even trying to try, but also that being the thing that sets it off, that original break that Unsabanor has, incredible. I love we get to meet some stray 4 horsemen as well, and we get to see, like, the consequences of those action. And all 3 of these episodes beautifully show team dynamics, not just in emotion, but the fight sequences, getting to see Psylocke fight like she does. I'm so glad she's got the British accent. That is accurate. The whole Quanon stuff, I doubt they'll get into, but it's an interesting little thing for us comic fans to see, that maybe she's Betsy or Quanon. It's a long story. Comics are crazy. But seeing the way they fight so authentically, seeing the way they interact, seeing the way their morals and ethics all come into play, all while dealing with an apocalyptic threat, and the way the time allows all these timelines to feel like apocalypse is worthy of all of the stress of all these things coming to a head, while looking at what led him to be this, what recontextualized his origin, and giving us a lot more about fathers and sons, like what Scott did to Cable, and Cable trying to usher into the future, like this generational thing. Genius. Absolute genius. Really digging the show. So glad it is back. The next reviews are going to be a lot more palatable and slower talking, so I'll be able to talk 1 episode at a time. Next week, this time next week, will be episode 4, and just that episode, so I'll be able to talk about just that one. But I wanted to dive into these first 3 with you lovelies right here. What did you think of these 3 episodes? Was it a lot? Was it a lot to bite off in one chunk? Because it felt like a lot to process with you guys just now. Were you excited to see any X-Men? Are there any X-Men you want to see? Is there anyone that you saw in those containment areas? You're like, oh my god, I can't believe we got them. We got the Cuckoo Sisters with Quentin Quire. What is going on? This is crazy times. And we got Chamber. Crazy. Sync. Penance. Guys, what a time. What a time. I appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comments who you want to see, who you did see, who is your favorite cameo. What do you think of the storyline so far? What do you think of the show being back so far? Let me know in the comments below. Please hit that subscription bell to keep an eye on everything I'm covering. Movies, TV. We just had Supergirl come out. We've got Spider-Man around the corner. We got Doomsday later in the year. We got Clayface in the fall. All that stuff going to be covering right here, as well as comics every single week, and this show every single week. So subscription bell, press a like while you're pressing buttons. I'll see you next week. I'll see you even sooner for other stuff. Appreciate you. Bye, guys.